Alright, I'd like to tell you about standards-based grading. This is the system we'll be using to assess and report the progress of students in the science classes here, especially for earth science and physical science and global science. And the first question, of course, we have is, what is standards-based grading? And the shortest answer is, it's a different way of giving students and parents feedback about student learning. And I should say that the standards part just means that we're basing everything up, we're basing our whole conversation on the standards, the learning goals that the students have. How is this different? Well, let's first look at what traditional instruction and assessment looks like. Well, the first step that happens in the classrooms is teacher teaches some concept, and then there is testing on that concept. After the students have taken their notes and done their activities, they get tested on it, and then their grades are reported to them online throughout the quarter, at the end of the quarter, the end of the semester, as their final grades. And well, what's wrong with this? I wouldn't say it's entirely wrong, but here are some things that I've observed. I've observed that it's difficult for students to have their questions answered in this, if there's just teach, test, grade. Also, the testing can be kind of nerve-wracking, and all of the testing happens all the way at the end, and it's easy for students and teachers and parents and administrators to get worried that the actual learning isn't getting measured at the end. And then there's the feedback that a teacher might write on a paper might not be read, or even if a student does read it, it's hard for them to integrate that into everything that they are learning. And finally, if you don't understand something, you might get a poor grade, and then you might feel lost when the class does move on. So if you ever felt like you didn't really understand something at the end of a unit, but then it was too late to do anything about it because the class already finished that unit and it's time to move on to the next topic, if you ever felt that way, standards-based grading is for you. And in fact, standards-based grading is for everybody because it's about understanding where you are on your learning process. So how is standards-based grading different from traditional assessment? In standards-based grading, there's a cycle where there's constant instruction and constant learning and constant assessment of learning. And the student and teacher are in a continuous dialogue about their progress and any difficulties they might have along the way towards meeting their learning goals. And in standards-based grading, the student reaches a proficiency level, and that's the goal. The goal isn't to get the A, the goal is to get the learning goal met. Why is this good? Well, it's easier for students to ask their questions and to get their students answered by the teacher, to get feedback from the teacher. It's also testing happens only after there's been a lot of back and forth dialogue, and it's clear that students have had their questions answered. And if you don't understand something, you just keep working on it until you get it. It's not a failure when you don't understand it the first time that it is assessed. And let's understand this a little bit better by comparing a traditional gradebook and a standards-based grading gradebook. Traditionally, you might have a list of students, and next to each student they'll have the grade that they got on each assignment. Here's quiz number 1, quiz number 2, some project about whatever they were doing in quiz 1 and 2. We can't really tell what it was. And then there's going to be tests at the end of the unit. And then what the student sees, or what the parents see when they log into JMC or whatever the reporting software is, they'll see just this average. And it's hard to understand what was really going on here. We can see that it's very hard to understand what quiz 1 and quiz 2 mean. I don't really know what Dan needs to work on when it says he has a 72 on quiz 1. I don't really know what it means for Dan to have an 85 on quiz 2, or what does it mean that he got a 93 on the project? Does that mean he colored in the lines very well, or and what does it mean he did well on the test? Does that mean he guessed right? Does that mean there's not enough information here? that's what standards-based grading aims to solve. So let's look at a sample standards-based grading gradebook. Here we have the same students, and instead of quiz 1, quiz 2, project, or test, we see actual names of the learning goals. So for example, Dan, Katie, Kim, Linda, Rob, Scott, and Tim were all responsible for learning about these 4 things: measurement and recording, unit conversion, basic graphing, motion equations. These are just some sample learning goals from a physics class. Anyway, we see that Dan didn't yet meet the goal of measurement and recording. He hasn't figured out how to do that all the way yet, but he is excellent at unit conversion and basic graphing and motion equations. Okay, let's see. Kate, she did most of it, yet she's missing one learning goal. Kim, she's got about half of them. She's doing a good job. She just didn't get everything done yet. Linda, she's got everything done. Scott's got everything done. Rob, ooh, he only has one of the learning goals met, but he's still working on all the others, so it's perfectly fine. He's on the way. And then at the end of the quarter, or even before the end of the quarter, in the gradebook, you would see something like this. We can see that the current standards grade for Dan is 75%, because at this moment today, he's only met the proficiency level in 3 of the 4 standards assigned. We see Linda and Scott, they have 100 because they already met all the learning goals. But Rob, he's at 25% right now. It doesn't mean that he's failing the class. It just means that right now, we're only a couple weeks into the quarter, he doesn't yet have these learning goals met. But we're going to continue to work on it, and we're going to have more and more quizzes that measure Rob's understanding of these learning goals so that he can meet the standards. It's continually about improving so we can meet the standards. When it's not yes or no, you can tell that. It's just yes or not yet. Rob hasn't yet met all these goals. So when you see that you haven't yet met a goal, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you're on your way. You're all on your way. Okay, what else? Why is this good for students? Well, you will know what you need to learn, and then you can use that knowledge to choose what you need to work on next. Why is this good for parents? Well, you'll be able to log into our system and view what your son or daughter needs to work on. You'll be able to participate in the dialogue that is happening between the student, yourself, and the teacher, and you'll be able to help your child that way. And also, for your information, why is it beneficial to the teacher? Well, I can actually know what my students' questions are, and I can respond to them more easily.
BlueHarvest was created by a group of teachers who wanted to be able to teach their students in the way that each unique student actually learned. So when you use BlueHarvest, what you're going to see is that we're going to keep track of all the things you're working on separately. Instead of one giant grade, we're going to look at individual ideas and just keep feedback going on each one. So you're in Mr. Patel's art class, and you're learning about depth, color, and balance. And if we click on depth, we can see here that Mr. Patel has given you 2 lines of feedback. One is text, and the other one's a video. He's going to show you, some technique at home on some piece of art that he didn't feel like bringing in or couldn't bring in. But we didn't want the story to end there. We wanted you to be able to comment back. And I know that when I interact with my students, as soon as I give them feedback, they want to ask me questions. They want to clarify. They want to get better. So we're going to allow you to give text feedback. We're going to allow you to record audio, to record video, or to take a picture with your webcam to let your teacher know, oh, thanks for the feedback, here's what I thought, or here's where I want to go. Do you think this project is good? And in this way, you can have a really great, private, individualized conversation that isn't in front of all the other students in the class and is more about you communicating with your teachers about your education in the same way that you communicate with your friends.
All you need to do is get your child's login information. It will be emailed to them. And then you click I'm a parent. And you enter your name. Say you are little Leify's mom. Her name is Ragna Segan. And you log in. And then you can see, okay, you can select your student's teacher, Mr. Segan, and you can see the standards that your child is working on, and you can join the conversation that's going on between your child and your teacher. You can offer your input right here. Thanks for watching.